Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Ladera Street. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in on this beautiful Monday afternoon here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And today, as we do every Monday around these parts, we will be looking at the Constitution of the Bahamas, led by Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson, who is a constitutional lawyer. We call this Masterclass Monday. So if you are new around here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please let everybody know that GPS is on the air and we are about to get this party started. But it would mean nothing if we did not have your involvement. And so here is how you can become a part of the show. The telephone numbers to call are 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line for messages and calls is 801-0271. That's 801-0271. We're streaming live on Facebook on the official Michelle Malcolm and Global 99.5 FM pages. If you haven't already done so, please like and share the show. Also coming to you live on rumble.com. That's rumble.com. Look for Global Paradigm Shift, all one word, no spaces in between. And that's where you'll find the GPS channel there. We're also coming to you on Cable Bahamas, channel 974. And you can download the Global 99.5 FM app to your smart device and carry us with you 24/7. Last but by no means least, we would like to welcome all of you who are tuned in by way of radio. Hello to all of our audience in Radio Land, whether it's from here in New Providence, Grand Bahama, where we have a really healthy following, throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and of course, across the world. Welcome to you all. So we're waiting for Professor Sidney MacArthur Thompson, Walter Thompson, to make his way to the studio. He hasn't arrived as yet. And as soon as he does, we'll bring him onto the stage so we can get this discussion going. In the meantime, if you know anybody who you think could benefit from these shows on the Constitution, I would really like you to invite them to come and be a part of the of the knowledge that we are sharing here today. It's not, unfortunately, widespread information. It's out there for everybody to see, but very few people have made it their business to go and search it out. And unfortunately, it's not being taught in any major way in our schools. And so, we thought it was important to start doing these shows on the Constitution, because oftentimes we are going through challenges in our everyday life because we don't understand the responsibilities and, more importantly, the rights that we have as it relates to the Constitution of the Bahamas. So this is why we've decided to start doing the shows every Monday. God willing, the professor and I sit here and go through the Constitution. And we've been comparing it to other acts that have, other bills and other acts that have unfortunately, in some cases, contradicted the Constitution, because, as Professor always points out, the Constitution is your supreme law of the land. So while we wait for him to make his way into the studio, I'm going to go ahead and play for you a clip that explains what a Constitution is and why you should care about yours.
Okay, so before we talk about what a constitution is, let's first explain why we need one. Let's start by looking at the fundamental things we all need as human beings. These are a voice in the decisions that affect our lives, material well-being such as food, shelter, and education, security and protection from violence or discrimination, and recognition and respect as individuals and communities. To help meet these needs, people create governments and delegate powers to them to exercise for the common good of society. The problem, though, is that while governments need powers to perform their functions, history tells us again and again that power without limits can lead to corruption, dictatorship, and oppression. Free, fair, and regular elections might help ensure good government. They allow people to select who they want in power, and over time, to vote out those who perform badly. But we also need some basic rules to control how that power is used, so that those who win elections still have to respect your rights and promote your interests, rather than using power for their own benefit. Just as in a game of football, there have to be rules and a referee. So in a democracy, there must be rules by which all the players are bound. These rules are provided in a constitution. The Constitution is a law, but it's not just an ordinary law. A constitution is a supreme law that establishes, organizes, and empowers the government, and determines how other laws are made and implemented. It is also more difficult to change than ordinary laws, so that those in power cannot make up the rules as they go along. Football wouldn't be fair if the winning team could change the rules, and democracy isn't fair if those in power can just change the Constitution according to their own whim. The Constitution harnesses the energy and power of the state, ensuring that the people control the reins. This explains why when people are trying to establish a new, fairer society, one of the first things they do is write a new constitution. This is what Norway did in 1814, India in 1950, South Africa in 1996, and Colombia in 1991. Indeed, nearly all countries in the world have a constitution to establish rules for using power. On the other hand, we've seen that when a democratic government is illegally overthrown, one of the first things the coup leaders do is set their sights on destroying the constitution. They don't want any inconvenient limits on their ability to rule by force. So the constitution both organizes and constrains power. Now, how does it do that? Well, there are several ways. One way is to divide power between different political institutions. For example, sharing functions between a president and a prime minister, or between two houses of a legislature, or between different levels of government, the national level, the regional, state or provincial level, and the local level. A constitution defines the powers of these institutions and regulates the relationship between them. It also ensures that power is rotated. One year we may vote for one candidate or party, but after a few years, their time will be up, and we will have the chance to choose someone else. This means that no one person, party, or institution can accumulate too much power or stay in power too long. It is important to maintain a strict separation between the political institutions on the one hand, such as the elected parliament and government, and on the other hand, the permanent neutral institutions of the state, such as the courts, the military, the police, and the civil service. Constitutions also constrain power by saying what governments must and must not do. For example, a set of constitutional rights may specify that you can't be tortured, that you can't be imprisoned without due cause, and that your freedom of expression can't be infringed. Other provisions may direct the government to provide for basic human needs, such as education, healthcare, sanitation, or housing. Constitutions don't only protect the majority. There may be special provisions for minorities and marginalized groups, for their security, their participation in government, and protections for their identity and culture. Most constitutions also have a nation-building function. They seek to embody national unity and to reflect and declare the identity of the nation and its people. The Constitution announces to citizens, to the government itself, and to the outside world what the nation is, what it stands for, where it has come from, and what its vision for the future might be. A good constitution is just one step along the road to a peaceful, prosperous, and democratic society, but it is a fundamental one. By setting down the rules by which the state should be governed, a good constitution helps to ensure that the democratic aspirations of a people become and remain a reality.
All right, so now you understand why these Masterclass Monday shows are so important, because we're trying to teach you through these shows what your rights and responsibilities are. And I don't know, Professor, no, we can hear him talking in the background. Let me bring him onto the stage. Professor, we can hear you, you know.
Thank you very much. I'm all set and ready to go. Just trying to get my screen set up.
Okay, all right,
So,
no worries.
You can do that, but I mean, I can still communicate, because the thing is, and good afternoon, Bahamas. I'm sorry about the slight delay, but sometimes time just moves so quickly. And when you get as young as I am, you got to make sure you get in one piece, whole and sound.
Jason, I need you to center him up on the camera, please. So there you go, much better. All right. Well, you know, they say better late than never, Professor.
But I agree with that, and I have a responsibility to you and the audience and to the radio station. I take that very, very seriously, because I was calling on another radio show today, and it's amazing how personalities who have access to the microphone constantly violate the rights of citizens who are trying to speak, who want to make a comment, who want to make a suggestion, who has an idea, and they're being held back. And I'm very disappointed about that. I believe the radio stations have to make certain that the personalities who they have behind the microphones do justice to the callers. Some people get very discouraged because the host may not like them, the host may not like what they're going to say, the host wants to say, you can't say this, you can't say that. I'm not talking about anyone slandering anybody. I'm not talking about anyone libeling anybody. That's contrary to law.
Mm-hmm.
The Constitution says very specifically and very clear, and it doesn't seem as if these radio personalities who are behind these microphones do not understand. You see, you do not have any more rights because you're behind the microphone. Let me make that very clear. The exact same identical constitutional rights in the Constitution afforded to you behind the microphone is the exact same constitutional rights afforded to people who are calling to the show or listening. You don't have any more than them. Now, you may have a privilege to speak to them. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But when you take your authority and exercise it outside of the Constitution, now that's a different kettle of fish altogether. I'm not saying they should disrespect the host. I'm not saying they should talk bad to the host. The Constitution is very specific. Freedom to impart ideas and opinions without interference. That's an exact quote from the Constitution. Now, are we going to live by it? Are we going to respect it? Well, it has to be respected because it's supreme law. And no interference with its correspondence. That's in your Constitution. That doesn't mean you come on there and say any and everything. No, that's not what it is. I had to correct when Colin and I did the show the other day. He used a word and I had to catch it right on the spot. Say, no, you can't go no further with that. Stop right there. And I stopped him. Now, he was coming along quite well. It doesn't matter whether I agree with what he's saying or not. That's not what the Constitution says. Because if everybody call in and they just agreeing with what someone say, that's not good for the country. Right. You should be able to have an intelligent discussion, sensible discussion. You ain't got to row and carry on in a derogatory manner. I'm not into those things. But I've learned in this business that you listen carefully. And I love tough constitutional questions. When you ask me a constitutional question, make them tough. My sister is famous for that. She will hit me with very difficult constitutional questions. And my only response is, that's a very good question, but I got to check it out. I may not know on the top of my head what the real answer is. Now, some things I will remember right off the top. And I can give the answer. And it depends on how you ask a question. Because one person can ask the question one way, another person can ask the same question another way. And it may appear as if you're giving two different answers, but it's the same answer. It's just how you ask the question. And I will answer you according to the question. Now, if I'm not sure, I will tell you, no, I have to check into that to give you the appropriate, correct, precise answer as it is spelled out in the Constitution. The Constitution is supreme, not Professor Sidney or Thompson, not any minister of the government, not any cabinet. They have a right to their views. Now, if you come on and say, these are my personal views, I can't say nothing. I'll say thank you very much.
I understand your point, Professor, but as a talk show host, I have to tell you, we have to sometimes make some decisions and try to abuse the privilege of speaking their mind on the show. And you don't want your show to get to the point where it becomes burdensome and people start to become annoyed because some people have chosen to abuse that privilege. So as talk show hosts, we gotta make some tough decisions sometime for the sake of the show and the quality of the show. That being said, if we decide for whatever reason, in my case, I don't mind people calling in with varying opinions because that's what makes for good programming. But if I deem it where you have become abusive of the privilege and I decide, okay, that's it, we're not going to accommodate you anymore, I don't think I'm violating the Constitution because I ain't stopping you from making your point. You could go make it someplace else. You just got to make it on my show.
But Ms. Malcolm, once you open the lines to the public, if that's what you say you're going to do, then it's open to the public. are you going to now say this particular person cannot call in?
If that person is being abusive to the airtime, yes, that's my right as a talk show host.
No, I'm not even getting into that part of it. When you open up the airwaves and you say you invite the public to call in, because I listened to some just today,
Right.
and the particular personality didn't even allow the caller or callers to express what they wanted to say.
Right.
They told the producer, cut. What kind of nonsense is that? I'm not talking about someone who's being abusive. The fella didn't even get a chance to say what he wanted to say.
Mm.
And the talk show host just tell the producer, cut. Now, if you want people to call in who will agree with you, then say so. Then you will know who you're dealing with. But if you just open it wide and say to the public, I'm opening the lines to the public, and they call in, fine. That's constitutional. But I'm not talking about people who call into a given show or any number of shows and be abusive to the host, or talk nonsense and fool. I'm not into that. What I am saying is I have seen too many violations by personalities behind the microphones preventing the public to express their views. Now, if you don't want certain segments of the public to call in, then say so. Then you don't have to call in. That's your right. That's your privilege if you so want to do that. If you want to segment your show to the point where you just want certain people to call in, fine. You can do that. But then you open it up and then the fella trying to say something and then you just cut. You can't even express himself. But anyhow, let me stop right there.
Yeah, because that's done the first quarter of the show just about going to even get deep in the Constitution.
Okay.
Yeah, the part from that point.
Yeah, let me stop.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah, we gonna agree to disagree on this one. But I hear what you're saying.
No,
I
that's
understand
fine.
what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just know that as a talk show host, I gotta be. You have to run the show. You have to be responsible for the direction of the show and the quality of the show. And if a particular person keeps calling over and over again, saying the same things over and over again, you got to make a decision. Okay, I accommodate you no more, because when you're getting complaints from your audience, when people tune anyway, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
All right. Yeah.
So I ain't trying to deny nobody their constitutional rights. All I'm saying is you ain't gotta express them on. Anyhow, let's stay focused. And get back to the topic at hand. Now,
Yes, ma'am.
when we first started this series, we were going through the Constitution line by line.
That is correct.
Article by article. And then we got sidetracked when all that stuff went viral with regard to the immigration situation
and then the
certain
Bahamas
minister,
yeah.
right? And so we started comparing it to the Bahamas Nationality Act, and we haven't been able to get back on track since in terms of going line by line. So the question is now,
if we could start with 13, that would be a good point to start with.
Article 13?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we had covered that already, but
that has to do with the because see a lot of things, and I have to tie it in with Article 54, because see there's so much misunderstanding, and I'm not saying that we should skip again, but next week we could just continue from whatever we left off.
Okay.
But we were supposed to do the Constitution, and I think I'm committed to that, because a lot of things that were said previously are still misunderstood. See, here's another thing that I found out, Ms. Malcolm, before I go any further. The Constitution is a new language to the Bahamian people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame them for the way they behave sometimes, because they've been deceived, they've been led by personalities who ought to know better. Notice what I said, who ought to know better. When it comes to constitutional law, that's a whole different kettle of fish. When it comes to statute law, even many of our citizens have no understanding whatsoever about statute law. And this is a major national problem in our country, because our people are laid back. And so when I was talking to someone in my church the other day, and I was talking about what the Constitution said about no man, woman, or child shall ever have their labor exploited or have their lives deprived. And I asked him if he had any deprivation in his life at any time. And he couldn't quite answer that. He wasn't quite sure. And the Constitution says that, then I mentioned him about street roads and street lighting, but we didn't get to finish the conversation. But be it as it may, these are things that we have to help the callers calling in. They want information. They want to be as accurate as they possibly can be. But my years' experience have taught me that you have to be, sometimes you got to be a little gentle. You should be gentle with them all over, because the thing is, they don't know better, Ms. Malcolm. They've been given false information, misinformation. That is not accurate, it's not precise. So they only could go by what they know. I just happen to know better. So I have to help them to think better and to do better. Let me just say this, Malcolm, then you could go on. I listened to the show on another radio station. See, I know how to put this. And the caller was talking about, the host was talking about crime. The caller called in. I called before that call, and I made some comments about the Constitution. That person came on after me and said, he doesn't mind having his constitutional rights, all of them just taken away, just to deal with crime.
Wow.
I found that to be very offensive. Now, he doesn't know any better. I looked at that and say, this particular person doesn't know a thing about the Constitution. He is so off base as far as the East is from the West. You do not render your constitutional rights to any particular government. For them to do and act as they please, give me a break. Do you want another Sudan in the Bahamas, where the country broke up in pieces, where two warring factions have caused thousands and thousands of deaths, hundreds of thousands of people injured, and the economy in shambles? Is that what you want? It only takes one sweep to get rid of all of us. Just one sweep. We don't have no millions. You got how much? 350,000 or less, whatever. But the point is, see, when I heard that, I said, we got real problems in this country. But the fellow don't know his constitutional rights. He doesn't understand the power of the Constitution. And I said to them about the office of Prime Minister. And the office of Prime Minister is so powerful, extremely powerful. It's just like a gigantic octopus that spreads its tentacles into every single facet of Bahamian life. Whoever occupies that office has enormous powers. And ain't nothing could happen in this country without them knowing. I tell you the way it is. Now, does it mean that he's unconstitutional by making certain decisions? Not necessarily. But the powers are wide open, Bahamians. So, you can't say he's unconstitutional when he does certain things. You just have to say that's what the Prime Minister is doing. And there are no definite restrictions in the Constitution. And the only authority that could restrict him and bring him under control is the House of Assembly. And they ain't doing a good job of that. They're looking for something from him. A government post, chairman of one board, this, that, the next thing. People looking to be ambassadors, all kinds of things. But he has the power to do all those things and more. All I'm saying is, I ain't going along with him to talk about intrusion of my constitutional rights. Never.
Well, I think this is why we got to take a break, but I think this is why the powers that be were able to convince so many people to go along with rules and regulations around COVID-19, which are now being seen to have been not based in science at all, but people were just, whatever they were told to do, they did, because out of fear or whatever. I mean, it's just amazing the revelations that are coming out now that show that these people were just playing games. They,
Exactly.
Amazing the revelations that are coming out now. We're going to talk more about that on the show tomorrow. Some startling things that are happening right now as it relates to all these revelations of how these people are now, are now admitting that, oh, there was no scientific basis. We just decided to say that and then go with it. Okay.
Now that's dangerous.
But yet people were following every single thing that they said to do, like sheep being led to a slaughter.
Exactly.
So it just shows you the mentality of people. If you were so willing to give up your rights, my God. Anyway, we got to take a break. On the other side of the break, we're going to continue this conversation on this Masterclass Monday with Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson, as we look at the Constitution of the Bahamas. Stay with us. This is GPS.
Global paradigm shift. We'll return after this.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paint, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. And welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here in your company with Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson on this masterclass Monday. We're looking at the Constitution of the Bahamas, and here's how you can get involved. The telephone numbers to call are 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line for messages and calls is 801-0271. That's 801-0271. We're streaming live on Facebook on the official Michelle Malcolm and Global 99.5 FM pages. Please like and share the show if you haven't already done so. Also coming to you live on rumble.com. That's rumble.com. Look for Global Paradigm Shift, all one word, no spaces in between. You can find us on Cable Bahamas channel 974, and you can also download the Global 99.5 FM app to your smart device and follow us there. Last but by no means least, welcome to all of you who are tuned in by way of radio, whether it is from here in New Providence, Grand Bahama, across the country, or around the world. So, Professor, let's get back into this Constitution now. I believe we pretty much adequately covered everything up to Chapter 3, because you were saying to go back to Article 13, but I think we've covered that already. Okay. And I think it may be best for us to start afresh with a brand new chapter, which would be Chapter 3, which deals with protection of fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. How does that sound?
No, that's fine with me. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
But the only reason why I felt that because of tremendous misunderstanding, particularly when it comes to changing the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, because a lot of misleading information is out there right now as I speak. And I mean, you can move away from that if you desire. I don't have a problem with it. But I get very concerned when I see persons who ought to know better giving out misinformation to the general public. I get very upset about that. And you should not be misleading the public. If you don't agree with it, well, then that's fine. That's one thing. You can keep that to yourself. But then palming it off as if it is constitutionally sound, that's where I draw the line.
We have a caller on the line, Professor. Yes, caller, welcome to GPS. Caller, hello. Jason, I can't hear that person.
He's coming through. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead, caller.
I can barely hear that person, Jason. So I don't know what you need to open, but you need to open something because I can barely hear them.
Okay, Professor, you can hear me, right?
No, we were hearing you all the time.
That's better, yes.
Okay, Professor. To Ms. Malcolm, I would suggest that you pay Professor some heed on what he says because he's on a very important topic. Because I think what has happened to us is that certain persons, certain personalities will be on talk show, and they boast that if you talk with or say what I want to say, I cut you. Stop. You know, that is breaching on the right of the person as long as they ain't talking nothing that will cause the company to be sued or abusive language or any rudeness. So the person should be allowed to speak their mind. Professor had a teaching on how a talk show is supposed to present his or herself. And that was very timely. And I enjoyed that so much. And Professor, you need to really get some teaching done with these talk shows. He has the same talk shows that comes on in the morning and she speaks to the public that she doesn't want to allow you to come here and see a person every morning. And then she's preaching on my right. Suppose that's the only person I want or a person I know or a person I want to say hello to. He said you said the same thing to the same person over and over. I'm going to help you. I'm going to go on to the next caller. Transmit the rights of the person to speak their mind. You know? And I think this is timely. Thank you very much, Professor.
Well, thank you for the call, caller. You have a right to express your view, and that's 24/7. Freedom to impart ideas and opinions without interference. But, there are some who feel that that's not important. But to me, it's extremely important. And see, as long as you are acting within the law, I think we have to learn to be understanding and know what the law says. If you're not violating law, fine. But to prevent someone from expressing what the Constitution says without any interference, without even interfering with their correspondence, that's in the Constitution too. But some people just roll over that and think they can just say anything and do anything. But, we have to deal with that as we move along. I just think that people have to grow up. They have to understand constitutional rights, and no one should just be calling to say they agree with the host of the show. If you were to call and tell me you agree with everything that I say, I don't know if I'm making any sense to you, because I want to be challenged. My sister challenges me with severe, serious constitutional questions. And sometimes I have to tell her, that's an excellent question, but I got to find the answer.
But again, Professor, I can't speak for every talk show host on
No,
the
you
air.
can't. Yeah.
But I can speak for myself.
Amen.
And it is my responsibility to make sure that this show is entertaining, engaging, informative, the whole works. And if there is anybody, I can tell you all right now, there's anybody who is going to be abusive, and when I say abusive, I don't even mean with foul language or anything. But if you're going to constantly be calling and saying the same thing over and over again, it is my right as the host of this show to not accommodate you. Now, I'm telling you, you can't express yourself. You just say express it on this air, on this show, because I have a responsibility for the programming of this show. And it is my responsibility to not allow anybody to drag this show down because they have a constitutional right to say whatever they want to say, and they think they got to use the platform of this show to do so. No, sir. Now, if I violating the Constitution, forgive me, but I'm sorry. I have to be responsible for the quality of the show as well. And some people just don't know when to quit. Every day they want to be calling saying the same thing over and over again. Come on, man. I can't accommodate that. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm sorry. So let's move on, please.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to chapter 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Because this is, as you pointed out so many times, the Constitution, this is such a vast document. We barely scratched the surface. So if we get stuck in the same thing over and over and over again, we will never get through this whole thing. It's not to say that we can't review some things, but
some things need to be reviewed. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on. Chapter 3, protection of fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. I think this is extremely important.
Oh, yes, they are.
So chapter 3 begins with article number 15, which reads, whereas every person in the Bahamas is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, that is to say, has the right, whatever his race, place of origin, political opinions, color, creed, or sex, but subject to respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the public interest, to each and all of the following, namely, A, life, liberty, security of the person and the protection of the law, B, freedom of conscience, of expression, and of assembly and association, and C, protection for the privacy of his home and other property, and from deprivation of property without compensation. The subsequent provisions of this chapter shall have effect for the purpose of affording protection to the aforesaid rights and freedoms, subject to such limitations of that protection as are contained in these provisions, being limitations designed to ensure that the enjoyment of the said rights and freedoms by any individuals does not prejudice the rights and freedoms of others of the public interest. Now, I might as well read that in Chinese, because that is written in such a way that's like a maze. You gotta try to.
No, Miss Malcolm, I agree with you. That's why you got to take it piece by piece by piece. You covered a whole lot when you read it, and there's nothing wrong with you reading it. And this is how the document is set up. This is how these fellas set it up. So Anytime when you want something, you got to go to them and say, what does this mean? What does that mean? No, that's not right as far as I'm concerned in helping the Bahamian people. The way how the document is written, the average person cannot understand the language. That is why when I come on these shows, I take it piece by piece by piece. And I think that's what we need to do with these articles. Fundamental rights and freedom of the individual. And I tell people plainly, you're going to find some surprising things in that chapter, fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. Because if the gentleman had any understanding of that, he would not have said what he said on the show today. Okay? But let me say this basic premise that people need to understand. The right of an individual citizen cannot supersede the rights of the majority of the citizens of the country. So
Right.
that's a basic fundamental right, because it tells you you have what? Limitations. And there are some other limitations that you have, public policy, public safety, and things like that. But the thing is that you hear people screaming about their constitutional rights, but they fail to understand those rights have limitations.
Okay.
The Constitution wants to be fair, one, to the majority, two, to the minority. Remember now, when you go back to the very beginning of this Constitution, you will see it says every person. It didn't say every citizen. It says every person in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. These things are for them. All right, so all are protected under the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Now, some may not understand, and some may be confused, but those rights are afforded. The same things what you read about protection of privacy and property taken away from you and you're not being compensated with. We've had that so many times happening. That foolishness has to stop.
Now, before you go any further, you mean property that you own.
Personal property. Personal property, yes. Real estate property, yes.
Yeah, because see, the reason I said it, because I could see some of these people who squatting and go and these shanty towns trying to argue that you can't take this property from me. But if you ain't on it to begin with,
it's not yours, eh?
Okay, then let's make that clear.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. See, the example is that the property is yours because the Constitution cannot support anything that's illegal.
Right.
And people need to understand that the property is yours, whether it's personal or real estate or whatever, it's your property. And you are entitled to compensation. It should not be taken away from you without you being compensated. In fact, you should be able to agree that you would be agree to that system or that set of circumstances and agree to accept the compensation. Whatever the compensation is, it must be fair and just.
So in other words, the government can't show up in your yard and say, oh, we repossessing this land because we need it. The government can't do that.
The government has a right for a public purpose, for the good of the public, perhaps to have the property. See, the government has that.
When you say have the property, what do you mean, Professor?
Meaning for a public purpose. That would be for the benefit of the Bahamian people.
But they still got to pay you for it, correct?
No, they have to, yeah. They ought to. Let's put it that way, because some people say they ain't got paid. They ought to compensate you because it's right there in the law, what you just read. It says you cannot have your property taken away from you without adequate compensation that is fair and just. So the government may acquire a piece of property in the public interest. They can do that. So the government has a prior right in that sense. But they can't just jump up tomorrow and decide, I can take this from this person, I can take that from that person, I can take that from the next person. Then you're going to run into some serious problems. Because then the government of the Bahamas would be using its power contrary to the Constitution. because there's no legal basis for acquiring somebody's property. Not because you say you want it. It has to be for a just and fair cause for the public good. And a lot of people don't understand that. Is it going to benefit the interest of the public? Well, if it's going to benefit the interest of the public, fine. That's why the right of the private individual citizen is subjected to the rights of the majority of the people in that particular street, in that particular constituency, in that particular community. You can take it right down to the street, because there may be a situation where something has to be done.
So let me ask you something. I want to make sure I understand this clearly.
No, that's good.
Let's say I live on this particular piece of property, right?
Yeah.
And the government has decided that it wants to maybe rezone that property to create, I don't know, some kind of national something.
National park?
Some kind of, like you say, something for the public.
Yeah.
But let's say I have decided on this particular property, my navel stringberry here, my grandma born here, my ma born here, I born here. I don't want to give up this property just because you say now you have decided to do this huge development in this area. This is my family homestead. So you're saying as the government that it is needed for the good of the community, but this is my family homestead. This is my navel stringberry. So what rights do I have in that regard, or do I have no rights? Can they still take property?
It's an excellent question. I like those kind of questions. You have a right to that property. That's your property. Now, a sensible government will reason with you. That's why God says, come now and let us reason together, saith the Lord. A sensible government will do that. But you got some fellas who believe because they got certain powers in their hand, they ain't reason with you. Then you're taking it to another extreme. Yes, somebody's homestead, which is dear to them. The grandma was there, the great-grandfather was there, stretching all the way back. You have an affinity to that property. And that ought to be considered. And is there any way that the government can do what it wants to do without having to interfere with that particular piece of property? There are always alternatives. And you can argue your point, you can bring it. If it has to go to the court, then the court would have to make a determination. You have to present your argument. But I don't think, and this is just my view on this now, I don't think a sensible government would want to get into the hassle with a private citizen over something that is considered to be extremely valuable to the family or to that particular person himself or herself. You should always have this open door for negotiations. But if it's a situation where it is such that the government says to you and expels out clearly why they need to acquire it after all factors are looked at, then they have that right to acquire it constitutionally from you and give you adequate, just, and fair compensation. So this is, you see, the Constitution is trying to balance between the private individual and the majority of the people, and as opposed to the government, which represents the majority of people. So I understand what you're saying, Ms. Malcolm, and I want the listeners to understand this. The government can acquire property for a purpose, a good public purpose, not just arbitrarily taking people's property and say, I want them to have it, so we can just take it away from it. That doesn't make any sense at all. But a sensible government would reason with you. Even God says, come now and let us reason together, saith the Lord. I don't understand why they can't. That's in Isaiah 1:18.
Okay. We have to take a break, but on the other side of the break, I want to talk more about 15B, because we see this violated a lot in this country. 15B is talking about the freedom of conscience, of expression, and of assembly and association. Now, we see this violated time and time and time again.
Yes.
So either the authorities don't know the Constitution, or the police don't know the Constitution. I don't know, but we see this one violated a lot. So we have to talk about that on the other side of the break.
Yeah, definitely.
Stay with us. This is GPS. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Global paradigm shift will return.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here in your company on this beautiful Monday afternoon. This is a Masterclass Monday show when we are looking at the Constitution of the Bahamas with Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line for messages and calls is 801-0271. That's 801-0271. We're streaming live on Facebook on the official Michelle Malcolm and Global 99.5 FM pages. If you haven't already done so, please like and share the show. Also coming to you live on rumble.com. That's rumble.com. Look for Global Paradigm Shift, all one word, and that's where you can find my channel there. And speaking of channels, Cable Bahamas, channel 974 is where you'll find us. You can also download the Global 99.5 FM app to your smart device and carry us with you 24/7. Last but by no means least, welcome to all of you who are tuned in by way of radio, whether it is from here in the Bahamas or across the world. Welcome to you all on this Masterclass Monday as we look at the Constitution of the Bahamas. Okay, we are, before the break, we turned our attention to Chapter 3 of the Constitution, the protection and fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. And the first article in Chapter 3 is Article number 15. And Article 15B talks about freedom of conscience, of expression, and of assembly and association. Now, this freedom of assembly and association, assembly in particular, has been very much under attack here in the Bahamas as of late. It seems that for whatever reason, whether it be a directive coming from a particular politician or whether it be law enforcement agencies or agents who may be a bit overzealous in trying to do their jobs, I don't know where it's coming from. But as of late, we see where persons who are trying to protest, trying to assemble, are being hindered from doing so without any real reasons being given for it. And this clearly goes against what the Constitution says. So, Professor, how is it that our law enforcement agents, our lawyers, our lawmakers don't seem to know, or if they know, some of them don't seem to want to follow this section of our Constitution when it comes to your rights to assemble?
I like these kind of questions you're asking today. It causes me to think. See, the Constitution is final. Let's make that very clear. The Office of Attorney General is the office that advises the government. In fact, the Constitution says the Attorney General is the chief legal advisor of the government. The point is that you have people in there and they do not correct the government of the Bahamas when the government is in error. You mean to tell me all of these KCs and QCs and BCs and DCs or whatever else they have allow this crap to run on? People have been hurt, people have been injured, and been interfered with exercising their freedom of conscience, freedom to assemble. See, we don't need your right or ask you for permission to freedom assembly. That's in the Constitution. No, that's what's in there. It's already there. Now, all the police are supposed to do is to assist me or assist those persons who are asking. It's being done in a public place. So you advise the authorities of your intent. They're not supposed to come back and say, no, you can't have it, because I say you can't have it. That's utter nonsense and foolishness. Now, what has not happened is that maybe we have to take this matter to the court and let the court make a ruling on it. Because you see, this nonsense has been going on for too long.
Here's what I think is happening, Professor. If you want to protest or, have any kind of assembly, my understanding is that you are asked to write into the police for protection when you decide to assemble. So in other words, you're not asking for permission to assemble.
No, you don't
You
have
are advising them that you plan to assemble so that they can keep the peace, in other words, at this assembly.
Yes.
Now, somehow this got mixed up and misconstrued for them to believe that you asking them for permission to assemble.
Yes, when the Constitution has already given you that right.
Exactly.
To assemble.
So
you
all
don't
of a
need that
sudden
permission.
now we see where you write in to let them know that you plan to protest, and then they telling you you can't protest, or and then if you show up, you're getting arrested, and how we get here?
That's a violation of your constitutional rights. See, this is what I've kept saying to the Bahamian public, referring to Article 24(1) of the Constitution. They have a right to protect their interests. Now, even though the police and the government has been acting foolishly in this matter, you have a right, and that's the only place in the Constitution for the protection of your interests. Are we interested in doing something about it, or are we going to sit back and allow the police to keep walking on us, allowing the government to keep walking on us? And you're going to keep fooling around with people who you know have been violating your rights. And this is a good one that you brought up, because it has been happening repeatedly over and over again.
A lot.
A lot. With unions, with different groups and so on. This nonsense had to be put to stop. So you got to test the water. Like, I'm involved in a lawsuit right now. And we are going to go very strong, because we know from the Constitution we are constitutionally sound. We ain't playing no games with this. But the aim is that's what you have to do. That's why I said on a show some time ago, I'm talking about defenders of the Constitution. How much are you prepared to do to defend? See, we on this, and I'm glad you started with it, fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. What is it we're prepared to do to make sure that the police, the government, or any entity of the state from at any time from hindering us in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual? The man can't just jump up and say, I feel like giving you no permission. They're asking you for no permission. You're asking for the protection, because see, here's what happens, Miss Malcolm. You have a situation where one group of persons are involved in this assembly. Mm-hmm. You may have an opposing group that may not agree with that. Mm-hmm. That's why you have the police to make sure that things are done decently and in order.
Right.
Okay, but you have that right to carry out that demonstration at that assembly, because the Constitution gives you that right. So I believe with all this crap going on in this country today, and this has been bandied about over and over and over again, we've got to get something from the court to stop this foolishness. And I don't think anyone has challenged them in the court. But the government is going to be challenged in the court. And I happen to be a part of that. Very much so, because it is something that is serious. And what you said on that particular issue is very serious, extremely serious. We'll be dealing with another issue, which is very, very important, which affects the entire country. This one does too. Let me just say that. The point is that people have got to see, I keep saying to people, one, 3-step point. One, knowledge of the Constitution. You have to know what it says and understand what it says. Now, I know all this language, how it's written and all of that, as you were reading it. It confuses the average person. So you have to take it step by step, piece by piece. And I've been doing that on these shows when I come on Mondays, by the grace of God. Number 2, organization. The Bahamians are not organized. The Bahamians are not organized right now as I speak to deal with 1, constituency issues. Number 2, national issues. I say fooling around with no political party, you know. I'm talking about being constitutionally organized as the Constitution says you'd be organized. You can have your little body.
Professor, we have a call on the line. Let's go to the caller. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Good afternoon.
Excellent, thanks.
Good. The same topic that you're talking about now as relates to freedom of assembly. We have seen this violated on many occasions.
Yes.
And also we saw voices went to court. And again, a lot of feedback and lose their cases. But yet,
Caller, that is a good question. See, I like those kind of questions, you know, because they are valid questions. The point is the court could be dead wrong. Do you know that? The court could make, no, listen to me, listen, you ask the question, please listen. A court can be wrong. The only thing that is always right, why don't you listen, man? Please listen. Okay? But why don't you listen to my explanation, man? So you got to learn to listen. The court could be wrong. The court could make an unconstitutional ruling. Do you know that? That has happened before. Yeah, but that's what I just said, caller. No, it's a...
You can say it, but I'm asking you because I'm not aware.
No, that's fine. I don't have a problem that you're not aware. I'm so familiar with this now. I know how it is with the Bahamian people. That is why I take my time to explain to them. A court can make unconstitutional ruling. And therefore, there's action you could take after that, you know. When the court does that, the court,
What is that?
it's in your
I'm going to go to
constitution.
the Privy Council and tell them to lose it.
You see where you're going now? You see your, but no, but see, that's your, see how you're jumping the gun? We have a system in place to deal with disputes. Are you prepared to go by that? See, I haven't
Tell me what it is.
Okay, now if you would just be quiet and let me explain myself.
You ask the question that you're talking, so I'm responding.
Okay, caller, if you're going to call and ask a question, you need to give the guest the time to answer the question. If you're going to call just to be argumentative, then you know this ain't the venue.
No, that's not the time for that.
Okay, so.
Yeah, but I'm asking a question. I'm trying to get an answer, but right he's giving the answer. He's asking me question.
Now let me answer your question that you asked at the beginning. Okay, now would you give me time to do that?
Just go ahead, Professor. Go ahead.
Okay. A court can make an unconstitutional ruling. The thing is that you can appeal the ruling of that particular court. If it's unconstitutional, you're not satisfied. You can go to Court of Appeal and you can move on to the Privy Council. You know, a case went all the way to the Privy Council on Article 6 because the government of the Bahamas has been stubborn in not carrying out what the Constitution says. You got to go all the way out. And as long as you're constitutionally sound, you see, people will, those who know better at the higher level of the court, the appeals court and the Privy Council, you can get justice. They're not here to be...
But on that thing,
yeah, go ahead.
On that thing, ruling, right? But the government did not win the Privy Council matter on Article 6. But I'm talking about a matter where a person win the Privy Council and still was in violation of...
Who was in violation? The government was in violation of Article 6. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. But now, what has to happen now? We even ain't sure what the government is doing about that right now. There's been no clear course of action taken. All they told them was follow the law. They didn't add anything to it. Article 6 is still intact, just as it was always from July 10th, 1973, right on up to now. So what you have to do then, you have to take the same kind of action, a constitutional action, against the same matter on what Ms. Malcolm we're discussing now about freedom of association, freedom to assemble and have these demonstrations and so on. This is a serious matter. Lives have been affected. And so the thing is, not because a judge or a magistrate makes a silly ruling, an unconstitutional ruling, you just throw your hands up in the air and quit. You got to move on. You can always have people who are contrary to the values and principles of the supreme law of the land. Remember now, you're dealing with the supreme law. You don't take that lightly. And so if you're going to go after and fight for it, then you got to go with all your might and fight for it. Because that's what we're going to do with this case. We ain't playing with them. We got no time to be playing. You know how many people have been hurt over the last 50 years? And have died, and are now their family is hurting because of the government of Bahamas making certain decisions that are not constitutionally sound. Do you know that? Article 6 is only one, you know. That's only the tip of the iceberg. So I'm saying to you, sir, there are procedures that you have to go through legally. You always want to do things legally according to law. You see, if you wake up tomorrow morning and decide, some wicked fellas decide, since you all ain't no law, we can suspend the Constitution. Not over my dead body. Not in this country. You'll never see that. As long as Professor Sidney Thompson is there.
So again, on the same article that you talk about, freedom of assembly.
Yes.
So once the police lock you up, you go to court, you lose in front of the court, then more than likely you're not going to carry that to the Court of Appeal and the Privy Council because they don't go through all that.
Why not?
What is the next option?
Why not? Why not,
Caller?
Caller?
Waste of money. You waste of money.
Caller, let me just say this to you. If you yourself don't believe that your Constitution is the supreme law of the land, then you got a real problem. Whatever it takes. Pardon? Say what again? Say that again. I didn't catch that. Is the caller still there? I don't know.
Okay.
No,
I think we may have lost the caller. Here's the thing. The caller made a very, I think, telling statement about, well, what if you want to go? You don't want to go through that by going to the Privy Council. If you don't want to go through that, then you don't want to defend your rights.
Exactly. I mean, that's just my point. See, and let me explain this while it's in my head. He asked an excellent question when he first came on, and I asked him, please give me the opportunity to give you a constitutional answer. Listen, man, when it comes to freedoms and the rights and freedoms and privileges of this country, are you prepared to fight for it? My mother and father were prepared to fight for it. And they ain't educate me to be a fool to allow any administration of the government of Bahamas to walk all over me and walk all over my family. No way. And as long as
we have another call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Yes, good afternoon. Am I on?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay, question I have. Mr. Thompson is commonly referred to as Professor.
No, hold on. Stop right there. Stop right there.
I'm asking questions.
No, but no. I know. No, but I. Caller. Anyhow, go ahead.
Yes or no answer.
No. I'm not answering any question like that. That's not relevant to the discussion.
It is very relevant.
No, you are not paying me. Are you paying me? Are you paying me? Are you? No.
Let the person continue with their question, Professor. Let me hear what you're saying, caller.
Okay, go ahead.
The point that I'm making is, and this is why we have so much misinformation and so many problems in our society. It cannot be that the gentleman is using the platform that he has to speak as though he is an expert and he is not legally trained in the law.
You don't know that.
No,
that's an assumption.
You could have dispelled that if you
no. I don't have to answer anything.
Let him finish, Professor. Let him finish.
Okay, then go ahead.
The problem that we have is we have many people out there in our society who speak as though they're speaking from a position of knowledge and expertise. I'm not suggesting that Mr. Thompson cannot read. What I'm saying is he either does or he does not have legal training. And if he has some form of legal training, he can indicate the extent to which he's being legally trained. That's number one. Second of all, when you talk about the Constitution and understanding the Constitution, you have to have fundamentally an ability to do legal interpretation. The Constitution can say many things, but based on the use of words, that can tell you any number of things. And I think Mr. Thompson is doing a disservice to the listening public because he's not first and foremost indicated the extent to which he is capable of deciphering the Constitution, and on the basis of that training, he can then indicate to us how much substance, we should give that interpretation. That's what
okay. Before Professor answers or choose, just one second, I want to ask you a question. Before Professor responds to your query about his training, I want to ask you a question. Are you a regular follower of the Masterclass Monday shows?
I do listen from time to time. I do.
Okay.
But
let me. I'm going somewhere with this question.
Okay,
in the amounts of times that you have listened to this show, have you ever heard Professor Thompson say anything with regard to the Constitution that was contrary to the law?
The gentleman who called before me just asked him a question, and Mr. Thompson responded in generalities, and the same way he treated that caller, the same way he treated me. He tried to divert or deflect from what was being asked of him. He said that the government of this country has many times violated the Constitution. He said a judge can be constitutionally wrong.
That's correct.
For him to say that, he just said that, for him to say that, I mean, that's a weighty thing for him to say, that a judge can be wrong.
No, but it's true.
No, a judge can be wrong, but he never indicated the avenues that people who challenge these matters, when they take them to court, the avenues that they have to get to resolution, right? If you believe that the judge is wrong, yes, like the caller prior to me said, you can take it to the appeals court level. If after that you're still not satisfied, you can take it all the way up to the highest court of the land. You know, but to just be spouting this, making a statement that we are in this country suffering from a lack of adherence to the Constitution without any basis in fact, without being able to point to what it is you're saying is unconstitutional. I think you're just engaging in generalities, and that's not advancing the conversation. And I think he should be a lot more responsible in his discussion to at least indicate to us exactly what is wrong, where the violations have occurred, and then explain to us why it is that the powers that be, himself included, many times he said that he wants to challenge it himself. Why hasn't he challenged these things that he says are unconstitutional? Otherwise, he's just repeating the same thing over and over just to be heard.
Okay, now caller, stay on the line and allow, because you ain't answer my question either, but stay on the line and allow Professor to respond to what you have said. Because my question to you was, hold on, Professor. My question to you, caller, was, in the times that you have been listening to this show, have you ever heard Professor Thompson say something with regard to the Constitution that went against the law or the legal interpretation of the Constitution?
He speaks in such generalities. He just constantly said that the Constitution is being violated. And he talks about freedoms and all these other things. But these are basic things that anybody can say about the Constitution. I mean,
so you caller are asking for specific examples.
Professor of law.
So hold on. So you are asking for specific examples as it relates to when the government may have violated the Constitution or what?
No, what I'm saying is allow him to speak in more detail so that he can, in fact, be checked when he says things that are erroneous. He's speaking in such generalities that anybody can come on here and say, you can't violate the Constitution, it's the supreme law of the land. We know that. And then you can't go and say, well, the judges can be wrong. Yes, they can be wrong. How is the judge wrong? And then say what the avenues there are for you to question or challenge an erroneous or incorrect ruling. But don't just say these things that are basic and general and not have the ability to go into more detail or elaborate on it.
So you mentioned the caller before you, and you were saying that he gave generalities to the caller before you, but I specifically heard the professor say you can take it all the way to the Privy Council, and that caller said, well, what if you don't want to go through that? So
I asked that after the fact. Mr. Thompson didn't say that before. The caller said, can't you do that? And then the caller said, but I choose not to.
Say it again?
It wasn't Mr. Thompson who first raised that possibility. It was the caller.
That's not so.
I'll listen, but I do think that it's very superficial what Mr. Thompson discusses and passed off as being expertise. And I actually
okay, so I can let the professor answer you now. I didn't talk enough. I can let the professor answer you now. Go ahead, professor.
The point is, the caller is dead wrong in all that he said about me. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know my qualifications. If he had been listening to these shows, Ms. Malcolm, I've been on your show over a year now. The many shows that were done and put on the internet, put on the radio, explaining in simple, basic, fundamental language the things written in the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas for the average person to understand. And this particular personality, it's not going to be nice today. This particular personality comes with all of this fuzziness and foolishness and nonsense, challenging me. But he can't show any evidence where I've said anything that's unconstitutionally sound. And I challenge anyone out there, after all these shows I've been doing, bring forth your evidence. The only thing I have is the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. That's what I stand on. That's the supreme law. And nothing could supersede that. A judge has made an unconstitutional ruling and had to be challenged. And the ruling was overturned.
Well, I mean, you know,
talking.
I don't think it's unfair or irresponsible to say that our governments have made decisions that have been unconstitutional. I mean, just look at the recent ruling from the Privy Council as it relates to the rights of a Bahamian father to pass on his citizenship to his child born in the Bahamas to a foreign mother for years.
For 50 years.
The decision went against that.
Yes, and Ms. Malcolm,
and they took it all the way to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council said these rulings have been wrong. So that is a clear indication of where the government, the judiciary, whoever was responsible for upholding that practice for all of those years was wrong based on the Constitution. So I don't think it is irresponsible to say that there are instances when the government goes against the Constitution.
Of course.
It's certainly not irresponsible to say that is the case when it comes to things like freedom of assembly. I have seen under the last administration, it was very clear that the particular leader of the country at that time had a serious problem with anybody protesting against him.
Of course.
And so, you know, the rulings were made that, and I'm not saying rulings in terms of a court of law, but clearly, you know, there was a decision made at some point that people weren't allowed to protest against him.
That's correct.
And so any opportunity for people to stand up and say this, listen, they arrested, I'll never forget this, Fontella Dean Chipman, who was a one-woman protester on Bay Street by herself.
Yes.
And they arrested her saying that she didn't have the right to assemble. How is assemble with one person?
Good question.
I thought you had to have at least two people to assemble. They arrested that woman. So
that's the point. Yeah, go ahead.
So we ain't no use we play around like we don't see the violations of the Constitution happening in our country. My God, the last prime minister even said out of his own mouth that we may have to violate your constitutional rights. That's what we got to do. That's what we're going to do. He said that.
Did you see the Attorney General correct him?
So why we acting like this is not a reality in this country? Why we acting like somebody being irresponsible for saying that?
That's correct.
Anyway.
The caller does not know anything about my background, my training, my decades of experience in law. Don't know that. I don't have to say that to anybody. That is a private, personal thing. My job is to do what the Constitution says. Now, if anyone has any problem with what I say about the Constitution, show me from the Constitution that I'm wrong.
We have another
I'm
call
not
on
a
the
living
line.
soul. Not a living soul has ever challenged me and said, Professor, this is where you're wrong.
We have another call on the line, Professor. We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Thompson, I want to know, is it constitutional for a government to use like the blind you on the road?
For a government?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to share these free cigarettes like that.
Oh, I think my sister was talking about that the other night.
Like you going into a war zone or something.
Yeah, I think they could adjust the lights. Yes.
They could take it, but then turn them face down so they could light the road instead of trying to blind you.
Yeah, my sister had some difficulties with it the other night. I agree with you. No, they could adjust that. See, the Constitution says very clearly, no man, woman, or child shall ever have their life frustrated by deprivation. Do you understand the importance of that?
Yeah.
That's frustrating you when you're driving in the nighttime with all these blinding lights. And my sister pointed out to me. And I agree with you. They ought to adjust the lights.
Like the Nazi lights, man. It's a war light. It's a very green light.
Yes.
They're like probably the world.
No, you brought up a good point. I'm happy that you
Yeah,
brought it up.
they're really good at that. Well, and even for Thompson, for lighting, for Thompson and all that, they're look at the general public, the hazards to the public. General public. And Thompson was then gone, and those lights, it felt like they needed to be there. Take them and face them down, go on the road.
Yes.
So they can still light up, but they would be gotten like a hazardous person. Because I mean, like, you got it blinding.
It is dangerous. Yes.
Okay, caller, I need you to get to the point, please, because we have another caller waiting on the line.
Thank you.
All right, caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon, how y'all doing?
Very well.
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm good. I have a question. As it relates to other than Article 6, which other article would we say the government has violated or did not?
You know what I can answer this? I'm going to answer it this way. You know what you need to do? As Malcolm said, this is on the global network. Go back and check the shows that I did, and you'll get your answers right there.
I mean,
because obviously, if you haven't, Malcolm, let me just say this to him. If you haven't been listening to the shows, you ask a good question. And all I'm saying to you, they're on the internet, under the global network. Go back and listen to them. You'll get the answer. Because
okay, so can I have that?
Say what again?
Can I just have one or two without having to do all of that?
Did you hear what I just said? Do your homework, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be back after these words from our sponsors. We have to take a break, guys. So let's go ahead and pay our bills, and then we'll be back on the other side. We'll continue this conversation about the Constitution of the Bahamas with Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson. Stay with us.
Global paradigm shift will return after this.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
One of the things I love about the mailboat is their relationship with Bahamas Air. I can earn travel points on my international freight and redeem them when I fly.
For me, online shopping is easy with mailboat to US addresses and regular freight delivery to Nassau. Plus, I can always prepay customs and freight, and they always notify me when my package arrives.
Yeah, a lot of people think the mailboat is just for shipping, but they also offer a safe and secure storage facility at affordable rates, all in a central, convenient location.
We also offer passenger service into Freeport multiple times per week with a seating capacity of over 450 persons. With family movies on large screens, one hot meal included, and on-board lounge for snacks and soft drinks. We're the mailboat. We're bridging people, products, and places.
Executive Printers is your one-stop shop for all your branding and customization needs. Letterheads, envelopes, business cards, invoices, share and gift certificates, rubber stamps, vouchers, funeral programs, brochures, flyers, banners, and promotional items like mugs, water bottles, mouse pads, and key rings, all with personable service and great quality. No project is too small or too large. For great turnaround and competitive pricing, make an executive decision. Call us at 393-5011.
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here with Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson, going through the Constitution of the Bahamas, and we're getting a little controversial now. Some people are questioning whether or not Professor Thompson is qualified to be sitting on this show and sharing his information. One person sent in a message on WhatsApp saying, Michelle, I totally agree with the caller. Another person called in saying, Michelle, people like these two callers will never be satisfied. You give them credence by allowing them the amount of time on air. What they speak is complete nonsense. So so you got some people for and some people against.
Some people against. But that's understandable. But the point is that I want them to challenge me based on the Constitution. See, my work is out there. I mean, it's out there for everybody to see. I'm not hiding behind any rock. I'm not hiding behind anybody's coattail. It's out there in the public. The public has a right to question it. But now you show me where Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson is wrong. And they can't do it.
Well, I have a comment coming in on Facebook that says, there's a clear agenda of today's callers and callers of the past few shows. None know what they're talking about, but someone is clearly bothered by the knowledge being given. That's interesting.
No, that's interesting. That's a good quote. I want to get a copy of that one. And that other one that was said, you remember I said in the last show I was with you? I don't know if you remember it. But those are excellent comments from the callers. Excellent comments.
Okay, so getting back to the Constitution. Oh boy.
Thank God we have a Constitution.
Yeah, the thing is though that unfortunately still a lot of people don't want to do their homework.
No, they don't. And it's
they
out
don't want to do
there.
the homework. They don't want to do
It's for
their
them to
homework.
go on the global network and find it right there sitting in front of them. And he got asked me about other situations. I say, man, go do your homework.
We actually have a caller that I forgot. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS. Caller, you there? Jason, I can't hear him. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now, Michelle?
That's better, yes.
Okay, good afternoon, JT here, Sidney and Michelle. How you doing today?
I'm doing quite well.
Michelle, I've been so busy, I'm not even sure if I called you yesterday, so let me say Happy New Year to everybody.
Same to you.
I'm going to ask a question to you, Sidney, and I do this most respectfully, not in respect to you personally, but for clarification, because I have a point I'd like to make. Are you able to quickly read the second section of our country, the preamble to the Constitution? Because you made a comment earlier, and it speaks to why I'm calling today.
Ms. Malcolm, would you able to pinpoint that quickly?
Just one second. I have to pull it up.
I think it's
the
in the
second part
preamble.
in particular. And while Michelle is looking for it, I'll just simply say.
When you say the second part, are you talking about? You're talking about from now, know ye therefore. What are you talking about when you say the second part?
Yes, now know ye therefore.
Okay.
All right. Now know ye therefore, we the inheritors and the successors of this family of islands, recognizing the supremacy of God and believing in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, do hereby proclaim in solemn praise the establishment of a free and democratic sovereign nation founded on spiritual values and in which no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone or their labor exploited or their lives frustrated by deprivation, and do hereby provide by these articles of the individual unity and creation under God of the Constitution of the Bahamas. That's what it says.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. And the labor frustrated by deprivation. Words of that effect. That's a call.
Jason, I can't hear that person. I think we lost JT. Okay, we have another call on the line in the meantime. Caller, welcome to GPS.
I can hear you on my radio, Michelle, but I can't hear you through the phone. So that's
okay. Let's try that again.
I can hear you now. I can hear you on the phone now. Thank you. What I'm asking, Sidney, is there an article in the Constitution that specifically speaks to our lives not being frustrated by deprivation?
You have it right there.
Pardon?
You have it right there.
You just lost me.
You have it right there. And it's also in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual.
See, the reason I'm asking that question, it has come to my attention recently.
Yes.
That some Bahamians are having their livelihoods destroyed.
Yes.
Destroyed by deliberate action by other Bahamians.
Yes.
And from what I'm learning and understanding, absolutely immoral. And that's why I wanted to find out in this Constitution, because as you're teaching us about our constitutional rights, many of us need to understand and respect the fact that while each of us has a right to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z, neither of us has the moral right nor constitutional right to take those same privileges away from somebody else.
No, I agree with that. And let me just add this. We are on the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. That's an entire section. You're going to find it speaks to just what you were talking about. We have to go article after article.
Okay, well, I've gone through some of the Constitution before, but it's so long, as we all know, it's hard to absorb it.
Yes.
And the language is so technical, it's hard to understand it.
Ms. Malcolm just said that when she was dealing with Article 15 right at the very beginning. And I told her I can understand why it is so difficult. That's why I take the opportunity. You take one piece at a time and explain it so the little man in Baintown, the little man in Fort Wayne Castle can get it. If you don't do it that way, they're going to never understand it.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll do my best to conclude on this note, and that is to say that, please, my fellow Bahamians, those of you out there who have a life and are living, please respect the rights of other Bahamians to earn a fair and honest living in this country. I don't have the right to stop you from earning a right, morally nor legally. Neither do you have the right, morally or legally, to stop me or any other Bahamian from earning an honest living in this country. Please, for those of you who are doing it and are guilty of doing it, please remember, God does exist and He does not forget. You are going to have to answer to God someday for whatever you are doing wrong to any other Bahamian if you are guilty of stopping others from earning an honest living in this country. Thank you, Michelle.
All right, thank you for calling. I think we lost a cell phone caller, but for those of you who are trying to reach the show, the number to call is 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line is 8010271, 8010271. You can call us or send us a message on WhatsApp. So again, 3260271, 3260271, or 3260272, 3260272 are the numbers to call. I believe we have another call on the line.
Okay.
I'm calling back because Thompson said I have a challenge with my people.
Caller, you on the air.
Yes, ma'am. The reason I'm calling back is because I mentioned earlier that if you're trained in law, you understand what's called legal interpretation. Mr. Thompson, in speaking to JT, even prior to JT's call, said that he referred to the preamble of the Constitution. Anyone who's trained in law understands that the preamble of a Constitution, or like the preamble of a contract, is aspirational. You do not use the preamble of a contract or the preamble of a Constitution to interpret the clauses of the Constitution. You use the clauses of the Constitution. How it is that Mr. Thompson can speak as though those words are the divine words, so to speak, if you give the Constitution that degree of respect, the fact that he does not even know that you don't use the preamble for the purposes of determining whether something is constitutional or not says a lot. And so I think Mr. Thompson should at least level with Bahamian people and let them know he loves learning about our Constitution, but he's not an expert in it. And I think for the purposes of your show, the public would be far better served if you had somebody like retired Justice Ruby Sawyer, all right, or someone of that nature, trying to enlighten the public on these matters. But Mr. Thompson seems not to appreciate basic things in relation to the Constitution, but he's speaking as though he is an expert, and that is what I'm saying is so dangerous. Can you respond to that? He was just referring the preamble as though the preamble you use to interpret the Constitution, and he's dead wrong.
Okay. I'm gonna let him respond. And if you're so interested, caller, why don't you leave your name and number with my producer, and I'll get back to you to see who we can arrange to also include in these conversations. Pardon me?
Good. Enjoy listening to your shows. What I'm calling is not out of disrespect to Mr. Thompson, but I'm trying to bring a degree of understanding so that he does not mislead the public as to the degree to which he's able to effectively address the subject that we're discussing, and that is the Constitution. And I respectfully say that he does not possess the degree of expertise required to give it the degree of the degree of analysis that I think these Monday conversations seem to suggest. That's all I'm saying. And thank you for your time.
All right, Professor, you want to answer that person?
Let me just say this. The caller knows nothing about my training, my experience, some 50 years of training and experience. I don't have to tell him anything. If that's how he feels, the Constitution allows him to have his view, and I'm not getting into that. I'm not here to have a legal argument with him, or anybody else for that matter. But what I say is this: go and check every single show that I did on this radio station, and you show me from the articles of the Constitution where Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson is wrong. Show me from the Constitution where I'm wrong. I don't want any speculation, because he knows nothing about me. He knows nothing about my background, my training, nothing of that. He's speculating. He has a right to speculate if that's what he wants to. I'm not even getting into that. But show me. And if he has confidence in other people, let him deal with it.
So, Professor, what do you say to him as it relates to the role of the preamble of the Constitution? That it's only aspirational.
No, that's what he's saying. That's his opinion. The preamble is your, the preamble which you have leads into the articles of the Constitution. That's your vision statement. That's your purpose for being as a nation. If you throw that out, you have really nothing to work with. Nothing. Nothing at all.
We have another call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Hello.
Hi. Yes, hello, we're listening. Go ahead, please. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead and speak, please.
Don't worry, but there are people here that we have so much of different foreigners in our country. And they wanted to take over.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a woman, I'm 74. And I know exactly what's going on in that California.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't go to me here.
Okay.
So you continue working and be strong and fight for your country. Because if you don't fight for it, the foreigners will take it over.
Thank you very much.
And they take it over.
Jason, do we have another call on the line? Thought I heard the.
Yeah, Jason, we're having a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can correct that. Ms. Malcolm is getting it and I'm getting it.
Ask him if there's another call on the line, because I heard.
Is there another call on the line, Jason? Yes. We have another caller?
Yes.
We do?
Yes.
Okay. Caller, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I am well. This is my first time calling the show.
Thank you very
and
much.
I really participate on the Facebook.
Yes, ma'am.
But today I felt like I had to call in. My name is Latanya Strawn.
Latanya Strawn. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Ms. Malcolm and Professor, I want to say that I want to encourage you guys today. I heard the attack.
Yes.
And I'm trying to figure out what is this, because I'm listening to the show every time this comes on,
yes,
and the rest of us.
Yes.
And we know that Professor is doing an awesome job with dissecting our Constitution. And so I'm calling in today. This is my first time, but I'm calling in today to encourage y'all. I'm not saying y'all are perfect, but I want to say that you are doing an awesome job. And remember, dogs don't bark and back up.
No, they don't.
Everything that is being said today negatively is because of the impact that is happening with the Bahamian people concerning this, our Constitution.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that the time that y'all are taking to educate the masses is awesome. And I implore you guys, and I just wanted to say, if these persons are not listening continually to hear the series as to what it is you're bringing, they're not worrying about their negativity that they're trying to bring.
Yes,
because what is happening here is generational curses are being broken as you educate the masses.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to encourage you guys today and to continue to do an awesome job. It's a stellar job you're doing. And I want to just say thank you for the time that y'all are investing in the Bahamian people.
Yes, and thank you, caller. I really appreciate that. That's a lift for today. And as long as management will have me here on the radio station to discuss the Constitution, and the detractors will come. I knew they would come out at some point in time, but I still say to them, show your evidence where Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson has been misleading the public on this Constitution. They haven't come forward to do anything. You come and attack, but you yourself hasn't demonstrated any goodwill to the Bahamian people. And I've been doing it consistently. Michelle didn't have to keep looking for me like she had to be looking for some other people. I don't play that. If I make an agreement to come, I am here. I was a little delayed getting here today, but with Malcolm, though, I would be here. And that's the way how I operate.
It's 4 o'clock, Professor. We got to get off the air. But let me just say this to our audience. I often reach out to persons, some of whom I guess that caller would want to hear or would give some respect to as persons who in his mind would be qualified to discuss the Constitution. And I cannot tell you the number of times that I have invited people to come on this show and they have declined. So it is very easy. And I'm not just talking about the Constitution. I'm talking about many other issues that we have in this country.
They will not
people say, oh, why you have the same people on again and again and again? Why you don't have this one? Why you don't have the next one? Why you don't call a person and tell them, say yes the next time they're invited? Because it's not for a lack of invitation.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, some people who are invited to come on this show choose to stay in the shadows.
Yes, stay in the dark.
So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. One of the questions I specifically asked that caller is, did the professor say anything that you have heard when in his attempt to explain the Constitution that went against the law? He was not able to answer that in the affirmative.
That's an excellent question. Excellent question.
So,
thank you, Ms. Malcolm, for the question. Excellent question.
You know, it may not be going as deep as you would like it to go, but the question again remains, has he said anything that is contrary to law? And if the answer is no, anyway.
It's a good question,
we
Ms.
will
Malcolm.
continue to try to do our best to get the information out to the public one way or the other. But I don't want people to think that it is for a lack of invitation that why certain people have never appeared on this show.
Malcolm,
and I could call names and get petty, but I won't.
No, you don't have to call the name, but you know who they are.
I'm not going there. I'm not going to do that.
Yes.
But my point is, anyway, it's 4:02. We done 2 minutes over our time. Gotta go. Tomorrow, do not miss tomorrow's show. We will have members of Optimist on the show tomorrow. There are all kind of things coming out, y'all. All kind of things coming out. Mr. Fauci over there now telling the truth finally about what they did and did not do during the pandemic and how they had y'all running around like a bunch of idiots on things that had no scientific basis whatsoever. He telling the truth now. Truth coming out. Kind of late, eh? We talk about all of that tomorrow and why you need to be concerned going forward. This ain't over yet.
No, that isn't.
So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Until then, I'm Michelle Malcolm. Professor, thank you so much,
Thank you
as
very
always,
much.
for being here today. See you guys tomorrow, same time, same place, God willing. Take care.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our
I am so delighted Ms. Malcolm said what she said. Jason? I am so delighted she said that at the ending